For hundreds of years, the world believed a dangerous lie, a lie so deep that it changed how millions of people see an entire continent, Africa. They said Africa was a dark continent, a place with no history, no civilization, no progress. This lie was not just an insult, it was a weapon. It was used to justify slavery, colonization, and the ongoing exploitation of African people and resources. But the truth is the opposite. Africa is not a land without history. Africa is the birthplace of all humanity. It is home to civilizations that existed long before Europe or Asia even dreamed of kingdoms. Its rivers, deserts, and forests gave life to powerful empires, rich in culture, technology, and leadership. The story of Africa was not erased by accident. It was done on purpose. Most of the history books taught in Europe and America were written by conquerors, not the people who lived these histories. Africans were painted as backward, primitive, and uncivilized people, ignoring millions of years of wisdom, culture, and innovation. But today we say enough. We are bringing back the stories of some of Africa's forgotten empires, fallen kingdoms, and the people whose brilliance still speaks through the land and the bloodline. When people hear ancient Africa, many only think of Egypt, pyramids, pharaohs, the River Nile. Yes, Egypt was powerful, but Egypt is just one part of a much bigger story. Long before the pyramids, other African societies were already thriving, building cities, creating art, developing technology. In West Africa, people were making advanced metal tools and sculptures. In Central Africa, kingdoms were running their own governments, trade systems, and religions. In the Horn of Africa, empires were connecting Africa to the wider world through trade, culture, and power. Even Egypt itself was influenced by its southern neighbors, the Nubians and the Kushites. Africa is not one story. It is a tapestry made of many civilizations, each with its own strength and legacy. The Kingdom of Kush. Just south of Egypt was Kush, an African empire that at times ruled Egypt. From around 1070 BCE to 350 CE, Kush was a center of power and culture. Its capital was Meroe. The Kushites were black Africans who built their own pyramids, many more than Egypt, along with temples and palaces. They controlled trade routes across the Nile, dealing in gold, ivory, iron, and other valuable goods. In Egypt's 25th dynasty, Kushite kings became pharaohs. This was the time of the Black Pharaohs, rulers like King Pie and Taharka, who defended Egypt and built massive structures. But in most Western history books, Kush is treated like a side note. The truth? Kush had its own language, art, religion, and even advanced iron smelting technology. Kush shows that Africa was not just influenced by others, it was often leading. The Aksumite Empire. Across the Red Sea in today's Ethiopia and Eritrea, the Aksumite Empire rose between 100 CE and 940 CE. Aksum was one of the world's great ancient powers. It controlled trade between Africa, Arabia, and India. It was known for its tall obelisks, some over 24 meters high, and its strong economy built on ivory, gold, and rare animals. In the 4th century, under King Ezana, Aksum became the first African empire to officially adopt Christianity, centuries before many parts of Europe. Today, Ethiopia still carries Aksum's religious and cultural identity, but in many schools, Aksum is barely mentioned, even though it connected Africa to the world and stood as a symbol of African advancement. Nok culture and Igbo-Ukwu. In West Africa, thousands of years ago, the Nok culture, around 1000 BCE to 300 CE, became one of the first in the world to smelt iron. They also created beautiful terracotta sculptures with lifelike faces and deep meaning. Later, around the 9th century, in what is now Nigeria, the people of Igbo-Ukwu made stunning bronze and copper artworks. These were not simple items. They showed signs of advanced craftsmanship, trade, and spiritual culture. These discoveries proved something important. Africans developed their own technologies. They didn't wait for outsiders to bring knowledge. Nok and Igbo-Ukwu were not just small communities. They laid the foundation for great empires that came later. Carthage, the African superpower. In what is now Tunisia stood Carthage. a powerful African city founded by Phoenicians but shaped by Berber and African culture. Carthage grew into a superpower, controlling trade in the Mediterranean and rivaling Rome. Its most famous general, Hannibal, led his army and elephants across the Alps to attack Rome itself. But after Rome destroyed Carthage in the Punic Wars, Roman writers told only their version of the story, calling Carthage wicked and barbaric. The truth is, Carthage was a center of African strength, with a rich blend of cultures and a wide influence. But it was written out of history by its enemies, the Ghana and Mali empires. From the 6th to the 13th century, Ghana Empire, not modern Ghana, rose in West Africa, covering parts of today's Mauritania and Mali. Ghana controlled the trade of gold and salt, two of the most valuable resources at the time. Its capital, Kumbi Saleh, had markets filled with riches and goods from all over. But textbooks often reduce Ghana to a legend, ignoring how organized and powerful it truly was. When Ghana declined, the Mali Empire rose. Under Mansa Musa, 1312 to 1337, Mali became the richest empire of its time. His pilgrimage to Mecca shocked the world. He gave away so much gold that it affected the economies of the Middle East. But Mali was not just about wealth. Cities like Timbuktu and Djenné became centers of learning, with schools and libraries that taught subjects like astronomy, law, medicine, and poetry. Mali proved that Africa was also a center of scholarship, not just trade. Great Zimbabwe. In southern Africa, between the 11th and 15th centuries, the Shona people built Great Zimbabwe, a city with stone walls up to 11 meters high. It controlled gold trade in the region and stood as a powerful political and cultural center. But when colonists saw the ruins, they refused to believe Africans built it. They created lies, saying foreigners must have built it. This racist myth was meant to hide African greatness and justify colonization. But the truth is clear. Great Zimbabwe was an African city built by Africans, showing centuries of leadership, trade, and architecture. Queen Nzinga and Central African resistance. In Central Africa, empires like Congo and Ndongo ran complex political systems with global connections. One of the most powerful rulers was Queen Nzinga of Ndongo and Matamba. In the 1600s, she resisted the Portuguese with both diplomacy and force. She made alliances, led armies, and protected her people's freedom. Her story proves that African women were not weak or silent. They were leaders. But history books often ignore her, and many queens like her. Ethiopia, the lion that roared back. Ethiopia is often called the Lion of Africa because it never fell to colonization. In 1896, Ethiopian forces defeated Italy at the Battle of Adwa, a proud moment for all of Africa. Ethiopia kept its language, religion, and traditions, even while Europe carved up the rest of the continent. But even Ethiopia's story is sometimes told in a simplified way, ignoring its full depth and history. For hundreds of years, colonization rewrote Africa's past. Artifacts were stolen and locked in European museums. Oral histories were dismissed as myths. African stories were turned into silence. The Dark Continent myth became a part of schools, media, and global education, teaching people to look down on Africa. But today, Africans are fighting back. Researchers, scholars, and communities are reclaiming what was taken. They are writing history again, on their own terms. Because Africa's history is not lost, it was hidden, and now it is returning. This is Edu History TV, where we bring the forgotten truth of Africa back to life. If you learned something today, share it. Let others know. And if you enjoyed the video, best like, share, and follow Edu History TV. So history no longer belongs to the colonizers, but to us.